Most people think a deer staring at them is about to run. But that's not always what's happening. Sometimes it means something else entirely, and knowing the difference changes everything. You're standing in your yard. A deer is 20 feet away, feeding. It raises its head and turns to look directly at you. Full face-to-face eye contact. Your instinct says, freeze, it's about to bolt. But it doesn't bolt, it keeps looking at you, ears forward. Body still but not tense. Breathing normal. And then, after a few long seconds, it slowly lowers its head and goes right back to eating. What just happened? That moment of eye contact wasn't a warning. It wasn't a prelude to flight. It was something much more significant. And understanding what it actually was will change how you relate to every deer that visits your yard from this point forward. To understand what deer eye contact means, you first need to understand how deer eyes are built and what they're optimized for. Deer eyes are positioned on the lateral sides of the skull rather than the front. This configuration provides them with a visual field of approximately 310 degrees, nearly complete peripheral coverage, which is essential for a prey species that needs to detect predators approaching from any direction. The trade-off is that their binocular vision, the zone of depth perception and fine detail where both eyes overlap, is a narrow channel directly in front of the face, covering only about 60 degrees compared to a human's roughly 120 degrees. When a deer turns its head to look at you directly, front on, with both eyes facing your direction, it is deliberately choosing to use its most precise, narrowest, and most cognitively intensive range of vision on you. This is not a casual glance that happens to land on you. It's a deliberate reorientation of the entire sensory system. The deer is committing significant attention to you in that moment. In prey animal biology, direct eye contact from another animal carries enormous evolutionary weight. The reason is simple. Predators approach from the front, with forward-facing eyes, with a fixed direct gaze. This is the visual signature of a hunting animal. Prey animals, including deer, have evolved deep neurological sensitivity to this visual pattern. A sensitivity so fundamental it operates below conscious control and triggers immediate physiological alarm responses. This means that by default, a deer looking directly at you is experiencing some degree of threat assessment activation. But, and this is the critical part, what modulates that response is the accompanying body language context. The same eye contact means completely different things depending on the posture, head position, ear configuration, and muscle tension of the animal in that moment. You cannot read the eye contact in isolation. There are two fundamentally different types of direct eye contact from a deer, and distinguishing between them is the most important skill you can develop in your relationship with yard deer. The threat assessment stare looks like this. The body is rigid, with observable muscle tension through the neck, shoulders, and haunches. The weight has shifted back toward the rear legs. The deer is loading for departure. Both ears are in full rigid forward alert. The tail has lifted from hanging to at least horizontal position, sometimes higher. The legs are positioned with a subtle widening of stance, the starting block position for flight. The head may be slightly higher than normal, stretching to maximize scent access. This deer has registered you as a possible predator and is in active pre-flight assessment. The correct response is immediate. Hold completely still. Break your direct gaze to look slightly to one side of the animal, not away entirely. Just offset and wait. Do not make any sound. Do not shift your weight. Give the deer 60 to 90 seconds to complete its assessment and make a decision. In most cases, if you stay genuinely still, the deer will either conclude you're not a threat and return to feeding, or will depart quietly without the full panic flight response. The recognition stare looks like this. The body is relaxed, weight distributed evenly across all 4 feet. The tail is fully down or barely lifted. The ears are forward but not rigid, slightly rounded rather than hard-pointed. There may be a soft, brief twitching of the nostrils, rather than the wide, urgent, scent-seeking flare of threat assessment. The muscles through the neck and shoulder are visibly relaxed rather than loaded. This deer knows you, or is in the active process of confirming your identity against its stored profile. It's looking at you the way you might look across a room at a face that's familiar but that you can't quite place yet. There's no urgency in it. When the profile confirms, which happens within a few seconds of combining visual and scent information. The deer will look away and return to what it was doing. That moment of confirmation is one of the most remarkable things you can witness with a wild animal. Here's a dimension of this interaction that almost no one considers. What does a deer actually perceive when it's looking directly at your face? The answer requires understanding deer visual capabilities in detail. Deer are dichromats. They have two types of cone photoreceptors compared to a human's three. This means they process color in the blue-yellow spectrum and lack the red-green discrimination that human vision relies on. They have significantly greater sensitivity in the shortwave, blue ultraviolet, end of the spectrum than humans. Clothing that appears gray or neutral to your eyes may appear distinctly blue-toned to deer, which matters because blue-toned objects stand out sharply in a deer's visual field against green or brown natural backgrounds. At close range, within 30 to 40 feet, deer can resolve enough visual detail to distinguish general facial shape, the configuration of your features at a gross level, and especially your eyes. Your eyes matter because eye whites are visible at range and create a strong visual cue that deer can orient to. Many wildlife photographers and experienced deer observers cover or darken the white areas around their eyes when approaching deer because the whites of human eyes are one of the strongest predator-present visual signals a deer registers. What the deer is primarily registering when it looks at your face is not your specific features the way another human would see them. It's your silhouette, your eye configuration, your color profile, particularly any blue spectrum clothing elements, and your movement pattern or lack thereof. These combine with the simultaneous scent check to produce a composite identification. Your face is part of the data package, but it's the scent confirmation that drives the final identification decision. This is why the same face in different clothing can produce different responses. This is also why your behavior, how still you are, how you hold your gaze, often matters more than your face itself to the outcome of the assessment. Over months of consistent, calm interaction, something genuinely remarkable can develop between a regular yard visitor and the human they have come to recognize as safe. A deer that initiates and seeks out brief eye contact as a deliberate confirmation ritual rather than as a threat response. You'll know you've reached this level when you observe a deer that, upon seeing you appear in the yard, orients its body toward you rather than away, turning to face you rather than turning to escape. When it then allows you to return its gaze briefly, without the threat assessment body language activating. When it resumes normal feeding within 2 or 3 seconds of the eye contact moment, without a prolonged alert phase. When it walks in your general direction rather than angling away. At this level, the eye contact exchange serves the same function for the deer that a brief nod or wave serves between familiar humans passing in a hallway. It's acknowledgement, identity confirmation, relationship maintenance. The deer is not communicating affection in the way a domestic dog or cat would. It's maintaining its cognitive profile of you and updating it with current visual data. Reaching this level requires no special equipment, no food delivery from your hand, and no unusual behavior on your part. It requires only time, consistency, patience, and the discipline to always respond to a deer's presence by going slower and calmer, by meeting their energy rather than imposing yours onto theirs. Some deer reach this threshold within a few months of regular contact. Others take a full year or more. A small number of individual deer never fully relax to this level regardless of experience. Individual temperament varies in deer just as it does in any species. The ones that do get there will give you something that most people never experience with a wild animal. Genuine mutual acknowledgement between two different species, each aware of the other and comfortable in that awareness. Next time a deer looks directly at you, you'll know what to look for in the body to tell you what kind of look it actually is. And you'll know what you're communicating back with your own eyes and posture. Subscribe because the next video covers something that happens in your yard that you've almost certainly never noticed. And once you see it, it changes how you understand everything you've observed before.